And I'm back. This is The Other Side of Ropes, and I'm your humble host, Red. Off the heels of another fun-filled episode of Top Rope Radio with my co-host and partner in crime, the best of the West, White Trash Johnny Logan, after we just got through interviewing the self-proclaimed golden era of wrestling savior, Vendetta, after his, I guess you can say, first impression on Solo last week on the heels of the four-man elimination match that Johnny Logan himself was involved in last week over the Bonanza swap meet over in Vegas. And well, I get to come back home and all my allergies decide to kick in due to the climate change. Well, let's face it, folks, I'm not getting any younger, and you try going from humid to dry and back to humid again within a 5 days time and see if you don't come out smelling like roses. Well, you really won't smell anything because your nose will be stuffed up. Look, I'm grateful. It's the beginning of summer, and it could be worse. I could have a chest infection, and those things are murder. At least in this case, I can try to breathe, so I jump right on as fast as possible. But enough about me. Couple of delayed belated shout-outs going out for birthdays. One going out to my twisted sister out in the West, Liz Savage. Also to my brother, who I also introduced him to 2 shots of Crown Royal and Blackberry Brandy. That is Jesse Logan. Happy belated birthday, brother. And also, belated birthday a shout out goes out especially to one of Philly's best kept secrets, one of Philly's finest, one of the deadliest cruiserweights out there, one of the small beasts of the East, I like to call him, Eric Blackie DeShields. Happy birthday, bro. And speaking of Blackie, he brought up a very interesting point last week. Has something to do with a promoter somewhere out here. I guess he got a little bit of an ego trip because he managed to get a draw of 175 people. Oh, really? Okay. That's fine. Now, I'm guessing this must be your first time because a true hardcore promoter probably would have got more than that. Then again, there really aren't too many promoters out there doing that sort of thing. Or put it another way, guys. Look. I'll break it down like this. The real promoters pretty much died out around the same time the territories went downhill and just pretty much was left for dead. And despite what you might think or hear, okay, you still hear about the AWA now, you'll hear about the NWA now. But guess what? You're still basically trying to kill a dead horse is what it is, folks. And I'll tell you why. Because the guys who originated the National Wrestling Alliance, we're not even going to talk about the AWA because if you're really aware of the history, well, the American Wrestling Association was actually a splitter of the National Wrestling Alliance due to some dissension during the 60s. As a matter of fact, I believe it was during 1960. And as a result of that, you actually had one guy holding 2 belts in 2 different organizations. And if memory and history serves me correctly, it was Gene Kiniski. I think that was him, because he was the first champion for the American Wrestling Association, as well as holding the National Wrestling Alliance title until the board took it from him. Now, the whole point of what I'm getting at with promoters that actually meant something back then, well, I'll let you know a little secret, guys. The very men who were in charge of the National Wrestling Alliance back in the 40s, yes, that's right, I said the 40s. And we're talking way back. Way back. Okay, these guys were legit businessmen. These guys really had money. See, back then, it was a little bit more relevant to have about 4 figures in your pocket than it is now, because why? Nowadays, due to recession and money being the way it is now, the dollar being weak, money doesn't go as far as it used to back in the 40s. So you can turn around and have like a pretty penny like $1,000 back then, and it gets you pretty far. Nowadays, you're lucky if it pays your rent, takes care of your food, and gets you back and forth to work. And that's for maybe a week or 2. Just saying. Now, these guys were legit businessmen. They had deep enough pockets back then where they can actually control the media. And by media, I'm pretty much saying not so much television, because television wasn't prominent back then. Like I said, it was the 40s. But they could control radio. If they couldn't control radio, they had the newspaper, which back then was a very powerful medium, to say the least. And these guys pretty much had sports editors in the palm of their hand. They can easily turn around and manipulate the sports section where you saw boxing and you saw wrestling. Failing that, they could have easily turned around and made their own publications. But wait, I believe they did. Well, back then, a lot of the masses involved in wrestling back then did a lot more reading. Now, well, let's see. Who's watching wrestling now? You've got the Gen Xers, the tail end of the baby boom, and you got Gen Y. And no offense, guys, I've read a lot of what goes on Facebook, and some of y'all seems like you did not pay attention in language arts and English class. I'm just saying. I mean, really. Can you say phonics lessons, boys and girls? I mean, can you say hooked on phonics? I mean, like, I never went to any spelling bees before, but I'm just saying, we could take our time, because what I've been seeing is pretty much careless. Being as it may, that just also tells me, if you have that much problem with your spelling, that means you might have as much problems with your math, which means in terms of money, you got to know how to spend it. In other words, a lot of your promoters out here now really aren't what they say they are. Okay? I mean, ever since, I would say, the last 15 years, you can call Heyman maybe one of the last pioneers, maybe a pioneer, and that's about as far as it goes. I haven't seen anybody yet that can actually turn around and say within the last decade or so that they can say the same about themselves, pioneering anything. You know why? Because 9 times out of 10, your average promoter who's out there now more likely will follow a template that's already been set before him due to what they saw on television, be it by Heyman or be it by McMahon or be it by the predecessors that ran all the promotions in the territories back around up until maybe 25, 26 years ago. It's the truth. And television isn't exactly what it used to be, boys and girls, but unfortunately the way things are, the general mentality here is basically Gen X, Gen Y, well, let's see, the way marketed is on television, they pretty much have us all conditioned to consume, okay? They pretty much instilled the whole thing with brand loyalty, and that's pretty much what they threw at us when it came to wrestling in the last decade or so, when they started the whole thing of Raw brand, SmackDown brand. Now you got brand name wrestling, and then it's not even wrestling anymore. It's sports entertainment. So that should have been our hit and a half right there. And now you still have the TNA Impact brand. Okay? I'm really not one for brand loyalty like I used to be, because the minute I see something that's a flaw involved in what I may consume, I'm going to switch. Okay? There really is no loyalty anymore in a case like that. Why? Because it's not so much loyalty anymore, it's about quality. The minute you're going to start switching down to mediocrity, we got a problem. Okay, because I pretty much care about what I'm looking at. I pretty much care about what I'm shoving down my throat or what's being shoved down my throat, be it what I'm watching or be it what it is I'm ingesting. Okay, because what goes in has got to eventually come out. And anybody ever studied computer science, they have a little phrase called garbage in, garbage out. It's kind of like the same as you are what you eat. Now, you got to pardon me if I'm talking a little too fast. I'm a bit excitable, and sometimes if I get enough of a thought in my head, I'm kind of a bit of a hurry trying to get it out. So pardon me for pardon me, you guys, especially my peeps out in Germany, if I'm going a little too rapid fire. I'm working on that, seriously. But like I said, my biggest argument right now is, this is pretty much the age of instant gratification. It's like, I gotta have it now, and if I don't get it fast enough, then, we're going to have problems. And that's what we're seeing right now. And I think this is the main reason why you see a lot of people that's still relying on what's on television for what passes for wrestling now. Because they know it's changed. They know, they're quite aware of what's going on. But I think they're just holding on to wait and see if any more major changes for the better is going to come along. And they'll keep watching until they do. Well, some of us are working on that. But I've said it before and I say it again. To quote the now late and great Gil Scott-Heron, the revolution will not be televised. And believe me, it ain't. You just got to know where to look. And on that note, this is going to definitely go on record as being one of the shorter ones because, well, I'm back at home and there's no airport and I don't have to worry about anybody going on an overhead speaker. So, on that note, to Marcus, Bird, Rick, and the rest of my crew out there in good old Deutschland, grace to you guys. out in Holland, my boys out in Belgium, to my partner Robin, to my boys Tom. Well, you guys know who I'm talking about. Tom, well, Homeless Tom, and should I say Dr. Gangrene, and to all the rest of y'all Thorax in the dot, and to my boy Johnny and to my boy Jesse out in the east and the west. Incense and scene. And for the rest of y'all, I'm out. Peace.